Second topic of the day, we want to jump in and talk about the Zach Lavine situation with Denver. Situation seems right. Last night, good friend of the program, Tony Jones, as well as Sam Amick over at The Athletic, reported that with the NBA's trade window opening this past weekend and with trade deadline less than 2 months away, the Nuggets are canvassing the league in support or in pursuit of a player that can offer significant help offensively. As a result, the Nuggets have either expressed interest in or have had preliminary trade discussions on the following players: Zach Lavine, Jordan Poole, Jordan Clarkson, DeAndre Hunter, Cam Johnson, and Jonas Valanciunas. League sources say the focus on Lavine in recent discussions is significant, with the Nuggets interested in the 29-year-old who is averaging 21.7 points, 4.4 rebounds, and 4.2 assists per game this season. Bryce, what is your immediate thought on a Zach Lavine fit in Denver?
Yeah, so one, Jonas Valanciunas being on that list was an interesting little last name.
I think that's more a statement of Dario Saric not getting it done.
Not getting it done. No. Yeah, DeAndre Jordan getting all those minutes right now. Getting everything out of him that they can. I like the idea. I'm probably higher on Zach Lavine than most people are at this point. I think he's been really good this year, Sam. I know we've talked about it. We did the trade kind of before December 15th primer of who we thought could be traded and make an impact. The dude's at 50, 43, 80 right now, and he's creating a little bit. He's rebounding. I went back through my notes. Every single game, it says the same thing: is I like his offensive process right now. I don't think he's forcing things. I think he's letting the game come to him. He can break down the defense. But most importantly, I've watched him go nuclear multiple times, including 6 threes against a not worst team in the NBA, Detroit Pistons. And he can really score. It's so nice to be able to talk about them like they're a competent basketball team, and what other teams do against them actually matters. It's like, oh, Lavine hit 6 threes on the Pistons. It's the Pistons. Like, no, it's the 11-16 Pistons who beat the Heat twice in overtime this year. But like I don't know. Maybe I'm falling for something I shouldn't hear, but I think he's really good. And I think he would be awesome playing off of Jokic, like just playing off of the shot making, the spacing, the cutting, all of that. I'm not saying he's great defensively. I would not say that, but in their game against the Hornets, he at least took the Brandon Miller matchup. I love the idea. Now I know we have to like actually get into what the trade would be, and that's an entirely different conversation. But the idea of Zach Lavine on the Nuggets playing off of Jokic is very intriguing to me.
So if we're talking purely about a Jokic-Lavine combination, I love it. I think it makes so much sense, and I think those two would play off of each other incredibly well. I also am somebody who thinks Zach Lavine has been pretty underrated really throughout basically since he signed that extension, right? So I did trade deadline big board this week over at The Athletic. I had Zach Lavine at number 2. Had him ahead of Cam Johnson, had him ahead of Brandon Ingram. For my money, Lavine is the best player on this list other than Jimmy Butler. He has been unbelievable. Like you said, 22, 50, 43, and 80. I don't love the decision-making as a passer. I still think that some of that stuff is there. I think you see it particularly in end-of-game situations for Chicago, where it does go a little bit hero ball-y at times, and there can be some contested shots. And I don't think that Zach has the best vision in the world. Again, I don't think he's a selfish player. I just don't think he has great vision necessarily. I also think the defense is a little bit of a misnomer with Zach. Like, he's actually pretty okay on the ball and has been for a few years now. Let's throw away last year. Last year was like a total clusterfuck, and he had the knee injury and everything and barely played. And I think when he played, he was not awesome on defense. But this year and the year before that, I actually think the on-ball defense has been pretty okay. It's that off the ball, he does tend to get lost a little bit and will like disengage a touch from time to time and can get beat that way a little bit. So this is where I think that the structure of this has to kind of be discussed and come into play, right? Lavine makes $43.1 million. Over the next 2 years, he will make $95 million. I think it's like 46 and then 49, basically. Really, functionally, the only way in season for Denver to do a Zach Lavine deal is by including Michael Porter Jr. And I don't think, to me, that's almost solving one issue in terms of like shot creation and opening up another issue. Because to me, so maybe I should mention this. The reason that it can only be Michael Porter Jr., I mean, in theory, or Jokic, I guess, but that's obviously not happening. The reason that it basically has to be Porter is because both Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray cannot be traded due to their extensions. They signed extensions in September and I think October, respectively. And because of that, they are ineligible to be traded before the deadline. That means that really their only functional way to make a move for Zach Lavine is with Michael Porter Jr. And the money is easy. You can do Michael Porter Jr. and Zach Lavine, or and Zeke Naji for Zach Lavine, and the money matches up basically perfectly. But I actually think that for what Denver needs and what Denver does defensively, that Michael Porter Jr., who is not some incredible defender, to be clear, I think that his size, though, makes him probably a little bit more functional defensively in playoff settings, and also gives them a little bit more versatility on how they can maneuver around Christian Brown and Aaron Gordon, particularly onto more difficult matchups. Like if you have Murray and Lavine out there, it's really hard against Oklahoma City, for instance, along with whoever their fifth starter will be. It's really hard to move Aaron Gordon up the lineup to guard Shea at that point, because then you're creating like a bit of a front court gap, right? Where then you have either Lavine or Murray probably guarding, maybe it's Christian Brown, I guess, right? I guess their fifth starter probably would be Christian Brown. You would then have Christian Brown guarding Jalen Williams. And then what do you do with Chet at that point, right? So I think that Porter gives Gordon real flexibility matchup wise defensively that Denver actually really needs. So I personally don't love the idea of moving Porter for Lavine. I like the idea of something you said to me last night, texting about this. I like the idea of, can you move Murray at some point? Like, I like the idea of Lavine replacing Murray.
Yeah.
But is Murray's contract something that will be an asset in the summer? I don't really think so. Like, I'm a little bit skeptical of that. But I don't love Murray and Lavine together. I love Lavine. I think Lavine at this point, frankly, might be a better player than Murray. So
he unquestionably,
that's kind of where I sit on it a little bit.
He has unquestionably been this year. I shouldn't say I hate when people say unquestioned. I think he has been better than Jamal Murray this season, just based off what I've watched. based off how I'm worried about Jamal Murray's ability to create separation and create a shot diet, even if Zach Lavine takes really difficult shots, his athleticism still allows him to get better and cleaner looks than what I think Murray does. Now, there would be some creation questions that Murray has a little bit more than Lavine, but right now, Lavine is shooting way better from the field and from three than what Murray is. The counter is Zach Lavine is 29 years old. Murray's only 27. Both, I think, have some injury questions. The other thing I'll say on the Michael Porter Jr., this is a team that is 24th in defensive rebound percentage. You want to guess who their second best defensive rebounder is according to the numbers? It's Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah.
Like people may say Aaron Gordon. The numbers say by almost 1.5 defensive rebounds per game, it's actually Michael Porter Jr. And while Lavine is athletic, that's not something he does incredibly well. He averages 4, but to your length and just kind of size argument, that's why I think it's a little bit of a different conversation as well.
Yeah. The rebounding is a really good point as well. That makes a lot of sense to me too. If I was Denver, so let's kind of pivot here, because the other name that Ian Begley brought up, and I'll bring that up, he brought up Brandon Ingram.
Why?
I'm somewhat more interested just due to the size, but like Brandon is also Brandon's a worse defender than Lavine, I think, at this point, if I'm being honest.
And this would be the same
that is
trade.
A lot of like, and part of what makes Porter work so well is that ability to play both on and off the ball, particularly off the ball. Part of why I like Lavine is that he's capable of playing both on and off the ball. Brandon Ingram doesn't really play off the ball well. So I feel like you're just going to be putting the ball in his hands more. So while I like the defense, I think that the defensive like flexibility issues, become a little bit easier to solve.
Sure. Yeah, I get that. Just the size.
I actually don't think he's a great Jokic fit at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, again, so now my thing would be you're taking your best 3-point shooter off the team, at least on volume. Julian Strawther shooting it really well. And adding, substituting him with Brandon Ingram, where I like the idea of Brandon Ingram on some of these teams. If I knew, and I don't know Brandon Ingram, I don't know what he wants or who he wants to be or how he wants to play. But if he was more willing to take these catch and shoot off the ball, and he is shooting the highest volume of 3-point attempts of his career so far this year. Again, another player we're talking about here that has some injury concerns as well to go along with everything. And on top of you have a contract situation you have to figure out with him also. Like Lavine's contract isn't great, but you at least know exactly what you're getting into with that. So I don't love the BI one as well, unless you told me he was really going to buy into. I guess I just don't envision like BI cutting off the ball to the, catching these back doors from Jokic and stuff like that. Maybe I'm shortchanging how good he could be off the ball. But I don't love that. I hope I'm not overvaluing Michael Porter Jr. right now. I think maybe if anything, I'm overvaluing the importance of Michael Porter Jr. to the Nuggets. And maybe that's a miscalculation on my part and kind of what he provides them and how he fits in all of this.
Let's get to a quick little note from PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money action. There are over 10 million members. Like I said a second ago, they invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. PrizePicks always puts its members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. We are big fans of PrizePicks here We absolutely love the app and what they're doing for the daily fantasy sports scene. Download the app today and use code Game Theory to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today and use that code Game Theory to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn a very liberal 4.5% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of the high net worth for any net worth for just $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For specific product disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. So, is there a idea that you can think of? To me, if I was Denver, what I would be looking to do is to split the Michael Porter Jr. deal into smaller pieces, like a couple of like $15 million players, as opposed to one $43 million player, by also adding in the Najee deal. Is there anything you can think of that kind of works in that regard? Like one idea that I kind of thought of was, is there a world where Atlanta would do something like Larry Nance Jr. and DeAndre Hunter or something like that?
Yeah,
like would that track?
Hunter's been awesome. So then what? So now you replace MPJ with Hunter and hope what you've seen from him scoring wise continues. And then along with that, you get this backup big that you really, really covet, who like Larry Nance Jr. would be so much fun playing off of Jokic too. Like, yeah. I realize that's he would.
Well, and now actually thinking about this a little bit smarter, I guess. If you're doing Atlanta and sending Porter to Atlanta, could you get Bogdan and do the Serbia connection and get Porter, which they want to go bigger and longer across the wings? You could do basically like Dyson, Porter, Ricochet, Jalen Johnson.
That would be a lot
across
of fun.
The wings.
I'm not gonna lie, that would be fun.
Like that's actually kind of interesting to me.
I'm in on that for Atlanta. That would be fun.
It kind of works for Denver too, doesn't it?
No, I like it for Denver also, because if I'm Denver, then I'm taking a chance on DeAndre being this dude. Or even if you just get one, like even if he just plays the rest of this year, like the way how he's playing right now. And he hasn't been a bad player. Like, don't get me wrong. He's just shooting ridiculous right now. But I mean, he's a career 37% 3-point shooter. It's not like he's been bad, consistently 15 points a game. And then Bogdan is going to play really well with you. Yeah, this one's interesting. I like this more than the other two things we've talked about. I think it's more realistic, and you could see Atlanta talking themselves into this, right? Like the idea of another rangy wing that really spaces the floor and makes sense. Like he does what those other two guys struggle with right now in Zach and even Jalen. As much as I love Jalen, like that's a nice little fit for him in there. Yeah, interesting. Okay. I'm messing with this one.
Kind of works a little bit.
How's the money
Atlanta
work?
And so it's if you do Bogdan, it doesn't work. If you do DeAndre and Larry Nance, I think it does work. You'd have to add in some money here or there, basically from Atlanta to Denver in order to make, this work for Bogdan. Maybe it's Kobe Buffkin or something, Denver takes a flyer on him. But like, if I'm Atlanta, like, I don't know that I need Michael Porter that badly. Right. But I actually do think there's real synergy between these two teams where maybe instead of Larry Nance, maybe it's Okongwu, right? And that's your backup big. But I don't think that really works because he can't, like, I don't think he can play with Jokic. Like that doesn't really track for me all that well defensively for that team. But something surrounding like one of DeAndre. I mean, look, you could also just do like DeAndre and Bogdan, but that feels like a little bit too much for Porter to me. But if you did Nance and then one of those two, and then like one other thing, or maybe you rope in a third team and, figure all that out, right? That kind of tracks to me a little bit.
Yeah, so that's what, if I was Denver, I'd want to try to find a way to get both. So how do I sweeten it to get both?
Yeah, they just don't have any sweeteners is the issue. Like you'd have to throw in one of Strother or Watson or whoever. And at that point you're, taking away from your current rotation to add, to your rotation.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, look, I actually think an Atlanta thing makes more sense. If I'm being honest, like if you could do Porter for Bogdan, Nance, and something else, I think that kind of works better.
I like this idea for Denver to add, like you say, I like the idea of moving on from Porter to split it into two pieces more than I do. I think some of the other ones we've like just the Lavine, the Miller. Who are the other names? Not Miller, Ingram, Jordan Poole. What were the other names in the Clarkson?
It was Lavine, Poole, Clarkson, DeAndre Hunter, Cam Johnson, Jonas Valanciunas.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, look, like there are functional ways for them to go get like multiple of these guys. I was trying to figure out like, could you maybe do like DeAndre Hunter to Detroit, Bogdan to Denver, Nance to Denver. And then like Detroit sends like a couple of things, including like maybe Fontecchio to Denver in order to get DeAndre Hunter.
Yeah, I mean, he would be a really nice piece for them.
Right? Like that kind of works. So the Nuggets would have to send out like one of their, Jalen Pickett types to Detroit, I think, to make something like that work. Right?
I'm trying to mess around with it on mine too.
Yeah, I'm like trying to figure it out. Shout out to Keith Smith building out this Spoke Track deal here where there's just quite a bit of functionality in this. I guess that, maybe you could send Zeke Naji to Detroit or something like that and try to make this work too. But I'm like trying to think that there's got to be a 3-team deal here somewhere where the Nuggets can get a few guys and Atlanta can get Michael Porter Jr. Given the reason that I think Atlanta would like Michael Porter Jr. Just everything that they're doing right now, team building wise, say that they're trying to put a bunch of big wings around Trae Young. Number one. I know you have Ricochet. I know you have Jalen Johnson. I think that Porter can just play with those guys along with Dyson Daniels. You need across the 2 through 4, you need 144 minutes every night. So if you have those 4 guys for that amount of time and they're all 26 and under, like Porter is and like Trae is, like that tracks for me. That makes a ton of sense and that'd be really fun. Denver would be splitting up its asset into multiple pieces, which is what Denver really needs right now. And they'd probably have to rope in a third team to get a third piece, just financially, if you wanted to do it with Bogdan. If not, you could just do it with DeAndre. But yeah, to me, like Atlanta with Michael Porter Jr. makes a lot of sense. And the other thing with Porter that we do have to talk about here just briefly is this is a guy that had a lot of injury questions coming into the NBA. Has missed the season due to a back injury. I do wonder what the medicals look like at the very least.
Yeah. So Yes. One, shout out Keith Smith again. Spot Track. What I love is I don't have to hit like submit on the trade. Like it just automatically updates and tells me whether things are successful or not. And I don't have to like go to a new page and stuff like that. But yeah, like, I mean, I was able to get it successful. Denver's not getting enough here, but by sending Porter to the Atlanta, Hunter to Detroit, Nance Jr. and Fontecchio to the Nuggets. And that worked. I even added in Malik Beasley just to see like if you added some money to Denver, if it worked, and that still worked. So
interesting.
There's something that could work there.
Yeah. But it just feels like there's synergy there between kind of all of those pieces, unless maybe Atlanta's just like, we don't want the injury risk that is Michael Porter Jr., but I don't know. Maybe Brooklyn as well with Porter, because the thing that we always talk about if you're going to move Cam Johnson, right, is having shooters around young players is really important.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, having guys who can space the court for young guys to grow into their star power is essential. And that might actually really help, I think, Brooklyn and help jumpstart things for them, even though they'll be paying Porter like significant money here for the next couple of years. I can see it, but to me, for that to work, they'd have to move Cam Johnson elsewhere and be like just getting a bunch of assets kind of across the board to do so.
Yep.
Okay. Denver, final point on this. I like that they're trying to do something.
Yeah.
Because it does feel like to me that they don't have enough to win a title right now. And again, for them with Jokic, the best player in the world, you know, him or Giannis, whoever you want to say, I think that their standard should absolutely be, let's go win a title at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I mean, when you have Jokic, you have to, every year has to be that. So I like this as well, that they're willing to look at something, because it doesn't look like that's where they're at right now.